Walt Disney Company has settled with Gina Carano in their lawsuit that has been going on for 1 year. Yes, folks, it's been 1 year. And in my channel, it's been crazy since then. We're up, almost 200,000 subscribers. Back then, my videos averaged about 10K. Now it's about 100K. So it's much different now. But one thing that isn't different is my prediction. This is my prediction that was right all along. This is absolutely a win for Gina Carano, and we're going to get into the details today on the Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. And of course, this is a Fast Facts premiere, the quick and dirty version of the latest in legal news. If you like this, please make sure to like the video and leave a comment below. And of course, we have a PowerPoint. So jumping right into it in Carano v. Disney. So obviously last year, Gina Carano, many of you knew her from The Mandalorian. She was aggrieved by Disney in her termination when she was let go due to statements that she made online. And when we were examining these statements, when we're looking at these statements last year, we were examining them under the basis of California labor law. Now, many lawyers were confused and thought this is something about defamation or this related to something else. But when we looked at it, and I called this out a year ago in a much different apartment, not as good as this one, but in this case, I looked at this under the California Labor Code and I said, this is a slam dunk. There is no way they can fire her for those statements, for having political opinions, particularly when they have other employees that have very strong political opinions as well. And it seemed at the time they were taking a particular political bias. They were, by firing her, we're actually picking a side there, and that's in violation of the California Labor Code. Now, in other states that don't have this labor code, this would be a much different question. This would be a much different legal inquiry. But particularly in California, because of Section 101, they were in hot water. And this is something that got passed. It survived a motion to dismiss and was getting into discovery. So at this point over the last year, emails, messages, internal documents were being let out. All sorts of things were happening, depositions. So this information was getting out, and we were learning the truth. At least Gina's side was learning the truth. Now, they weren't making that information public yet, right? But they were slowly learning what exactly went down. And lo and behold, as we all said, discovery was the real thing that Disney was afraid of, the real thing they didn't want to come out. And as that was going to, possibly be revealed to the world, if we went to summary judgment, we went to trial, guess what happens? There's a settlement. There's a settlement. So we have this statement from Disney, and I'll read this for you. It's very important because you need to understand what they're saying and what they're not saying. And also that the inverse of what they're saying is often very true. Let's read this. A Lucasfilm spokesperson said in a statement provided to Variety, the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm are pleased to announce that we've reached an agreement with Gina Carano to resolve the issues in her pending lawsuit against the companies. Miss Carano has always been well respected by her directors, co-stars, staff, and she worked hard to perfect her craft while treating her colleagues with kindness and respect. Now, I certainly believe the second part, but language is always intentional, particularly when spokespeople are involved. The first thing they say is the thing that you need to really look into here. Miss Carano was always well respected by her directors, co-stars, and staff. One of the key issues here, the key complaints on this lawsuit was that she was disrespected by the directors, co-stars, and staff because of her particular political views. And that was extremely damaging to Disney, extremely damaging to them as a company, particularly at a time in which they were already viewed as ideological and they're already losing some of their core constituents, such as families, which were being driven away from Disney by certain actions that they were taking at the time. So when they said she was well respected, this is to counter the narrative that her lawsuit had, right? And kind of tie that up, kind of close that up, that she was disrespected by them because that was indeed harmful to them. With this lawsuit concluded, we look forward to identifying opportunities to work together with Ms. Carano in the near future, meaning that's going to happen. So there will be opportunities for Ms. Carano in Disney in the future. Let's see what she had to say. I've come to an agreement with Disney and Lucasfilm, which I believe is the best outcome for all parties involved. I hope this brings some healing to the Force. Once again, the Star Wars reference, the reference to Star Wars there with the Force, is not unintentional. It's because they probably already know and came to an agreement that she will be in future Star Wars films, TV shows, etc., that she is going to be part of this in the future. That certainly was part of their discussion. I want to extend my deepest, most heartfelt gratitude to Elon Musk, a man I've never met, who did this good Samaritan deed for me funding my lawsuit. Thank you, Mr. Musk and X, for backing my case and asking nothing in return. To my lawyers at Schaefer Jaff, who walked me through this unknown territory, thank you for your wisdom and guidance. I am humbled and grateful to God for his love and his grace in this outcome. I'd like to thank you all for your unrelenting support throughout my life and career. You've been the heartbeat that has kept my story alive. I hope to make you proud. I'm excited to flip the page and move on to a next chapter. My desires remain in the arts, which I hope you will join me. Yes, I'm smiling from my heart towards Gina. First of all, Gina, very sweet woman, very honest woman, and she's being real with people now. Now, I know that there's some people out there that are Disney haters that wish she brought this all the way through, wish she exposed the rat, wish she, threw Bob Iger under the bus, all that sort of stuff. All this sort of stuff came out. Kathleen Kennedy, all them, got vengeance. But understand, ladies and gentlemen, that vengeance is not often the best for both parties. In fact, vengeance often leads both parties destroyed. Coming to a settlement, coming to an amiable agreement, coming to a peaceful agreement is often the best for everybody involved. Gina Carano, yes, she was wronged. Yes, she was disrespected. But at the end of the day, she's an actress. She's an artist. And her passion, she says it right here, remains in the arts. Her desires remain in the arts. Right? So let's go over to what Carano wins, because you got to really understand this. It's not just monetary compensation, because of course they're paying her, right? Of course. But it's the ability to work with them in future films. She's going to be, back in her own character, Cara Dune, back in that role in the future, absolutely 100%. And beyond that, she's not locked out of Hollywood. We all know what influence Disney has. We all know how the industry is. She's not locked out of the broader community. That is part of that conversation, saying, hey, we're going to not just work with you, we're going to make sure you're not blackballed, you're not excluded, etc., from mainstream film. So she may get mainstream roles out of this. And beyond that, she's completely repaired the damage to her name and reputation, because by them losing, because by the way, this is an objective victory. Settlement is an objective victory. Remember, Disney fought this tooth and nail. They used every procedural trick. They complained, they filed motion to dismiss, they filed all sorts of other motions. They tried to, at various points procedurally win. That didn't work. Settlement is a win. Most cases settle. And by them settling, that repairs her name, because it says Disney acknowledges they were wrong and acknowledges that what they did to her was indeed wrong, and they should not have done that. So that is done. But what does Disney win? And how does Disney win here? Now, of course, Disney does lose money, right? They do admit that, hey, we did a wrong here. But what do they get? Well, they get to prevent discovery revelations that would be disastrous to their public image, would absolutely hurt them if it came out that they were targeting her because she was perhaps political, or even worse, because she was religious. I think that would be absolutely devastating to Disney, because a lot of families go, a lot of religious people go to Disney of all political backgrounds. And that is very, very dangerous when it turns out you may have been discriminating against somebody for their deeply held personal beliefs. They also have the ability to work with Carano in future films. And let's face it, she's one of the best actresses out there in terms of their slate, because their slate is kind of thin. It also fixes this image of ideological bias. And now it can say, hey, look, we got Gina Carano. You guys know who she is. You know what her beliefs are. That she's not somebody who fits the typical Disney talking points that have been generally believed. It's somebody who we're working across the aisle, right? So it's a very nonpartisan or bipartisan sort of solution. It also avoids public coverage of the trial. Now, look, as much as I love myself and LawTube and we're all cool and fun, look, I'm not everything and I'm not all this, but of course we would cover it, right? And beyond that, all the internet would cover it. It would be a massive case. It would be everywhere. All the channels would be covering it. The drama coming out of that, the story, the gossip, and also Elon Musk. Elon Musk if he is given the opportunity, is going to cover this. He's going to put it all over X. He's going to be tweeting about it every day. It is going to be dragging Disney through the mud. And they absolutely do not want that, particularly when Elon would like nothing better than to stick it to old Bobby Iger. But let me know what you guys think today, and I will catch you on the next one.